I was helping my dad on the farm. In fact, that was one of the reasons I joined the Air Force, because I was going to be drafted, so was getting deferments from the draft board, and after about two deferments, I just told my mom and dad, I think I want to join the Air Force, Mom. But she didn't like that because my brother Hubert got killed in World War II, and she did not like the idea of me being in the Air Force. But I told myself, I don't want to go into the Army and go to Korea and be a ground pounder and, kill people. I didn't want to do that. So I assured my mother that I would not be in an airplane. So she allowed it. Probably the first time I had ever left the state of Arkansas and went on a train to Lackland Air Force Base in San Antonio, Texas, and was really, shocked at some of the very, very poor quality of barracks and bathrooms and things of that nature back in those early days. And the beds and what have you were quite different from home life, so I was shocked, to say the least. After 12 weeks of training there, that's one of the basic things you must do when you join the Air Force, to learn the rules and regulations of the Air Force. And then you pick out some type of schooling you go to based upon your IQ test. And they chose me to go to a petroleum specialist school, which was located across the whole western United States in Tillamook, Oregon. So there I went to Tillamook, Oregon, which is known as a land of trees, breeze, and cheese. So I love that little saying, And that's when I received my, my graduation from the petroleum specialist school. And then they told me that the instructor says, if you do real good and make a good score, you'll probably get an assignment anywhere in the United States. You can kind of pick it. I said, well, that'd be great. So I studied real good and hard, and apparently at the end of the thing, I was in the top 3 of the classes. Then they told the whole class that, where are we going, guys? They informed us that we were all going to FIF. Oh, that means I couldn't get a place in America, to be stationed in America. At least we didn't know where FIF was. So it stood for Far East Air Force. And we were sent to Camp Stoneman, California, which is near San Francisco. So I went there for we went there for just a few days, and they were going to ship us out to where we were going. But I told them, I got to go home. I don't want to go to, where you're sending me unless I go home, because I plan to get married. My girlfriend and I, we already had made arrangements to be married on June the 13th. And that was the time I would be getting out of the tech school. But they says, we can't do that. Well, you got to stay here and get all your shots and all the immunizations for a foreign country or where we're going. So I agreed to stay there, but I'm going to go home. So I went to the finance officer and asked him if they could give me advance pay so I could catch a plane to come to Arkansas and get married. Because after all, here I'm going overseas. It's my beautiful wife. And I didn't want her to get away from me. And I had already was engaged to her the day before I left to go to the Air Force. I got engaged to her. So we were planning on marriage, and it did work out. She had to adjust the invitation down from June the 13th to June the 20th, 1 week difference. And she just took a pen and scratched through the date and added the 20 above it. So we had a very happy marriage, and a big one. And away I went back to San Francisco, which sounds like a beautiful thing, but I was put on the ship, and on this ship I was sent to Yokohama, Japan. It took 10 days to sail to Yokohama, which was a strange, thing for me to be on a ship and going on a long journey. And when I got there, I still didn't know where I was going. So they put us on an airplane after we disembarked the ship and sent us to Busan, Korea. Well, okay. They didn't tell us that was Busan. They just get on the plane, here's where we go. So at Busan, we got on a train and we traveled up into the northern part of South Korea. on a troop train. And everybody on the troop train looked like they had M1 rifles and carbines and what have you, various rifles. We had nothing but a duffel bag. And I just felt kind of strange. What are we doing? You know, there was war going on at the time. And when we got to the spot, all of a sudden they says, okay, so and me and so and all you guys get out of the troop train. And it was in the middle of just off the side of a track. It wasn't even a station. It was just dropping me off here. And all of a sudden, here comes a big 6x6 covered Air Force truck that picked us up, and we hopped in it, took us to the air base, which is nearby.
Okay.
And there I stayed for a year, working in the petroleum supply section, refueling F-86 aircraft, which were fighter jet planes that were making missions over various parts of Korea, you know, when the time was called. But at the time, the war was near end, and I was sure happy about that. And Osan, Korea, is a very small city, if a village you might call it. And we would take our houseboy would take our clothing into the city or into their homes and go wash them out in a pond. They didn't have washers and dryers, but they'd wash them out in a pond by putting them on a rock and putting water on them and moving the rock around on the clothing to get out the soil, and then dry them in the sun. That was the way they did that. So, and one of them asked me if I wanted to buy something like a personal hat for wear home, like a baseball cap. So there is where I asked him to fix me one like this, and they made me this cap right here. And I've kept that for 60 years here in my home, just as a memento of a bit of a K-55 was the name of the air base, and in Korea. One day the gasoline pipeline that supplied the fuel to our storage tanks at the air base, they were left open too long and the tanks overflowed. And we had gasoline, or jet fuel I should say, going into the revetments, which is just someplace like a levee to hold the fuel in it so it wouldn't go all over the ground and into the ditches. And my Lieutenant Markwell, who was my commander at my office, he says, Airman Kordsmeier, I want you to put some of this fuel into make up some numbers of aircrafts and a number of the aircraft and put in so many gallons of gas so that we don't have to be in trouble with having this spillage not accounted for. I didn't want to do that, but yes, sir, Lieutenant Markwell, and so on and so forth. Which was a little kink I didn't want to do, but he thought that was the way I should do it, and I shouldn't tell it anymore. I promised nobody I would. You can see the sandbag revetments and places like that for protecting yourself should Midnight Charlie, which was a light aircraft, come and bomb a barracks or an air base, just fly in low under the radar, and that was called the Midnight Charlie aircraft that we always feared. So we would always have to be ready for that. And that kind of gives you a picture. And then I got letters from home too. So I was very happy about those, because that meant most of all to me was hearing from my sweetheart and my parents or whoever. And as far as saying, could you call me please? I don't think that was possible out of Korea. I got back to Japan to board a ship to come back to Seattle, Washington. And the name of the ship was the USS O'Hara. And it was about a 700 capacity person ship, which was pretty light ship, I thought, because the ship I went over on was the USS Mitchell ship, and it was like 5,000 troops were on that ship. And it took 10 days to get there. To come home, it took 27 days to return to Seattle, Washington. And we stopped at the Adak Island in the Aleutians for, I guess, refueling or what have you. And outside of Yokohama, in that little USS O'Hara, I got sick. I mean seasick as you'll never want to be like that. You almost want to die. I said, boy, I need to get a plane home. I'm getting home fast. So I got the very last ticket that they had available to find a route where they could get to Little Rock and get me home. So I just feel like an angel must have came and said, Clem, this is your ticket. I felt so good. If you're driving your car on an air base and you have an permission to drive with a sticker on your windshield, and then you're held in traffic and you're trying to buck traffic, say, I think I'm going to just force myself into this traffic lane so I can go home. Well, that doesn't work well. Don't try it, because Colonel Brown, my provost marshal, did a number on me. He scared the heck out of me. He asked the person who was the policeman, air policeman, to cut the sticker off my windshield of my car because I attempted to pull out in front of him and cause him to slow down and hit his brakes. And I didn't know he was the provost marshal. So Colonel Brown, I'm sorry. But he took the policeman and asked him to cut the sticker off my car and to see me Monday morning. That weekend was not too good. I was worried he was going to demote me. And then when I went in to see him Monday, he says, you'll have to stay. You will not be able to come onto the base for 30 more days. And here I was having to walk onto the base from a parking lot, which was off the base, just around the corner from our office, but which wasn't bad, but it was a very embarrassing situation. I read something that when I went to North Africa on a temporary duty mission, that it says never volunteer. But it was like in Casablanca, for example, we went to Nasser, Africa, for a 30-day temporary duty mission with B-36 bombers going ahead of us, and we getting on a transport plane and sitting in, like basket seats in those aircraft, which were very uncomfortable, please tell me. 2 days after we got there, the provost marshal of that base was shot by the civilians while he was en route downtown. And we wanted to go to Casablanca so bad, to see that city, which is so famous. But we only got out 1 or 2 days before that and had a chance to take some pictures. But don't take pictures. This is not allowed, in that part of the world. They don't do that. Of the native citizens. Well, I was at Carswell Air Force Base. I was chosen to attend a NCO prep school, and that was an honor to do so. It required you to stay on base. I was married with 1 son, and I was required to stay on the base for 4 weeks during the weekdays. But on Saturday at noon till Monday morning at 7 a.m. I could be off. So that's what I did. But on graduation from it, during the time I was there, we had flights of men, 3 flights. I was the right guard for 1 flight, and we would do parades every Saturday, and the review would be with the general or whoever was there, the commander, and he would eyes right. And in the military, that's really a happy moment to march in a band, march in a flights, and be looking at the all the ceremony that goes on with a parade. And I was chosen as the honor student of this class of 55H. And my wife and David were there to see it. I decided I would find a job somehow because I didn't have any qualifications other than I worked in an office in the Air Force, and I worked on a farm for my dad. So, gee, I'll just do anything. Just show me something to do. Back in the day, that was in 1956. So I went to see several stores, mostly appliance and furniture stores, and 2 of them, didn't need any help. But one of them said, "Yeah, I think I can. My son's going to want to do something different." So the name Mr. A.J. Hambicken in Conway, Arkansas, says, "Yeah, we can put you on." So I said, "Yeah, okay, good." And his daughter Patricia was my wife's classmate in high school throughout her school year at St. Joseph's here in Conway. So after I joined Hambick and Home Furnishings, I did the advertising, I did everything. You know, you might say I was a jack of many trades for the company.